Alright, thanks for clicking on the video. This is Gulpain, just back with a quick Broken Sword retrospective. And in this series, I'm replaying the original Broken Sword games. Well, the original series games. There's 5 in the series, and then there's also a fan-made game, which I've never actually played and finished. It's only a couple of hours long, I think. Maybe 2 or 3 hours long, but I've never actually finished that one. So that one, I'm looking forward to that. But that's not an official Broken Sword game. That's just a fan-made one, but a very excellent fan-made one. So in the previous video I went through the story of Broken Sword 1 and the just a quick look at the PlayStation 1 version. So the PlayStation 1 version is one that I played a few times, but the one that I really played a lot was the remaster on the director's cut for the Nintendo Wii. And I remember playing this in university. And I've said it before, but my housemate, she used to love when Inspector Moo came on. She loved his voice. So you know the appeal of Broken Sword. You know, you can play it yourself, but you can also kind of sit and watch, because it's such a kind of an entertaining game. So the PlayStation 1 version, I said in the previous video, had sort of like the visuals are like, they're excellent. Like I love the visuals of Broken Sword, the graphics. But the remastered version, you know, it put it into 16:9, but it also put the character portraits when the characters are in dialogue, which I think kind of adds a lot to the game. The previous game had just the characters talking, and they were quite not overly pixelated, but they were a little bit pixelated, but you could still, like, you know, make out their facial expressions and all that. But the remaster looks so much better. Obviously, like, you know, it's like 15 years later, so it should look better. But I still like the charm of the original PlayStation 1 version. But there's the sound as well. I don't know if they did something to the sound. It sounds a little bit better, but then, you know, I imagine the particularly the PlayStation 1 version, the audio might have been condensed in the original release, and it kind of did sound a bit, you know, not the best, like, but it didn't sound stereo, if that makes sense. It was good, like, but I don't know, maybe they need to increase the bass or whatever, but it's still pretty good. I don't know the exact ins and out of it, but yeah, all I remember is when I was younger, just playing Broken Sword 1, and then I remember my PlayStation 1 broke, and I needed to get like the disc cleaner, and I was stuck in a part of Broken Sword 1 or 2 for ages, and then I just wanted to get the PlayStation 1 cleaned so I could play Broken Sword again. So fantastic memories with it. But the upgrade here, you can see that the backgrounds are the same, the animations are the same, or they seem to be the same to me anyway. They're just kind of done in a higher resolution. They've obviously changed the interface a little bit, because it looks a lot clearer. The icons, and also the PlayStation 1 icons, they seem to be, well, they were a kind of a different location, but they seem to be kind of, you kind of didn't really know what they were. Well, you did a little bit, but you kind of, you definitely know what the things here are. In the remastered version as well, there's a lot more Nico, which is great, because I think Nico's a great character. She's like, you know, Broken Sword is George and Nico, to me anyway. I don't think there's, you know, kind of, they are the 2 main characters in the game, and I always thought that you should control Nico more anyway when I was in the original game, because she seems to be, I mean, she's introduced as a photographer at the start of the game, and then when you go to her house to investigate the manuscript, you know, you do get a bit of backstory on Nico from the flower seller that's kind of set up her stall outside her house, and, you know, saying like that she's alone a lot. So I think Nico should have had more. Now, she does have a lot more in the remaster, but if you read reviews of the remaster, a lot of people say that it doesn't add a lot to the game. The remastered portions where you start off with Nico and she narrates the start, and then you have like a section with Nico where she goes to the professor's house, and basically talks to, or sorry, not the professor, she goes to someone's house at the start and talks to them, and then you see Can as well, I think it's Can anyway, who's basically dressed up as a mime, and there's a bit more story to it, but not really kind of that's, you know, vital, or that was missing from the first game, because I don't think the first game kind of had any problems. Well, not to me anyway. I don't think it had any problems, to be honest. I suppose the goat puzzle, and there is a couple of bits particularly with the second game, were very difficult. But obviously today it doesn't really matter because you have like a guide. You can just, if you get stuck in a game, you can look it up and like, 10 seconds later you have the solution. Like, but we didn't have that luxury back in the olden days when I was a small child, and we had to basically just stare at the screen until we figured it out. I remember checking every like pixel, like every part of the screen, trying to figure out what to do and clicking on every item. So you'd hear every single piece of the dialogue, because there's a lot of dialogue on Broken Sword that you'd never hear unless you like asked someone to look at the nose. Or like you have like random items and you'd like ask someone to look at it, and they say like that's nothing to do with me. Or George has different voices, or not different voices, different voice acting for the items that you probably never hear. So it was kind of like advantageous in that sort of scenario. The So in the last section I did the story. In this section I'd like to talk about the graphics. So the story is for me what's best about Broken Sword. But a lot of the times in Broken Sword you kind of forget about all the locations you visit. And truly the trailer that was for Broken Sword, the trailer that I remember anyway, with I don't know who the guy is in it, his voice was awesome and it really made me want to play original Broken Sword. But the visuals in it and the locations are fantastic. I mean, I feel like if I went to Montfaucon, it would look roughly like what's there. I don't actually know, but I'd like to go there and see if it looks like it. But then I'd probably want to go into the sewer and do what George does. But I would prevent myself from doing that. So the original locations, they're so iconic. Even the when you start off, you're at the cafe in the start of it, and then you meet the guy who's doing the work. So those scenes are okay, but I really like when you get to like the church, and you have to talk to the priest in there, or when you get to the Di Vasconcelos' house, there's like a panning of the camera as George walks over to the left, which happens in sort of Ireland as well. It happens in a few different bits of it. It's very kind of like, I don't know, it's an old fashioned kind of a tool. You don't see a lot of that kind of that pan anymore. It's more sort of like 5-second cuts and all that, but I won't get into that sort of thing now, but basically it's a very kind of cinematic way of looking at Broken Sword. So the visuals are very, I don't know, it's almost like the people that kind of made the game, did they scout locations, or did they just know what these certain places look like? Like I've always used, whenever I'm speaking about Broken Sword, use Ireland as an example. They absolutely get Ireland like bang on. There is like stereotypes they use as well, but the stereotypes that they use are actually true. Like the section where you go to Ireland, you go to like a small village and there's a pub, and then they're excavating. So there's a guy like who's his truck or his tractor or whatever with all the hay in it is stuck up against the wall so that George can get over and into the archaeological site. And then there's a goat, and then there's a story of a goat. There's a ghost story, and the guys in the pub, they're like really accurate as well. I mean, if you walked into a pub in Ireland, you would meet a very similar sort of barfly gentleman at the pub, as you see in the section in Ireland. So it's very representative, very good. The graphics are excellent. It's like exactly like you'd see from a pub in Ireland. And then the graphics in England are good as well, although it's not that much. You kind of go to the train, and then you're in sort of like in Scotland, so not as detailed as in Ireland. The other games, you do go to Glastonbury and you do visit more locations in England, but this game, it's mainly Paris is a big section, then the return to Paris and the hospital. The Spanish section is a big section. That's a really nice section, but it's not as it doesn't feel as big as Ireland or Paris. Like Ireland, you just visit one street and then the archaeological site, but there's a lot of different like locations that you visit and camera angles that you look at, so it seems like there's a lot more sort of going on in Ireland. Paris as well, you visit a good few places in Paris. They're very fond of Paris, the developers in this game, the artists, Charles Cecil and co. And yeah, love those sections. They're absolutely fantastic. The game can be completed in around about 6 hours, I think. I've seen a long play. I've never actually like tried to speedrun or anything, but I've seen like a long play as I'm like in my job. I'll just put on the long play of Broken Sword when I'm doing something. So that's pretty good. But yeah, the sections added then for Nico, they don't seem as well. I suppose like you're kind of looking. I'm looking at it from rose tinted glasses, but they don't seem as iconic as the original sections. So Ireland is very good. Paris is very good. Spain is okay, but it's only in a small area. You're only in the Di Vasconcelos house and the grounds, and then you go underground. So it's not like a kind of a big area. As opposed to Ireland and Paris. Also, when you go to Syria, and that's a sort of bigger area as well, because you're in like quite a bustling town, kind of town village area. Then you're in the outskirts of Syria, and you're in the Club Marib as well. So there's a few different locations to visit. So I think they kind of skimped on Spain a bit here, to be honest. But it's just, I know you can't there's only so much you can fit in the game as well. But yeah, for me, it took me like a long time to finish the game the first time I played it. And even if I was to play it now, I wouldn't be able to remember all the puzzle solutions. There is like hints in it as well, which I try never to use. But then, you kind of like, it's just the hint is there, so you can do it, look at it to solve the puzzle. But I try not to do it. The remastered version, then I'm not sure if I think I'd rather play the remastered version on the Wii. If I had to play a version of Broken Sword, it would be the remastered version on the Wii, because it looks the best. Obviously there's I wish they would bring out like a Switch version of Broken Sword, or a PS5 version with all of the games one after another, so you could just play them on one disc. I do have the PC version, which has Broken Sword 1, 2 and 3, and but that's the original version without the remastered sections. So I think I'd rather play it with Nico, the sections with Nico, and the kind of the extra like quality of life improvements that this game has, like the big character portraits. Although I don't really think the character portraits, I don't think some of them actually look like the characters that much. They do, like, obviously they're that's what they're supposed to look like, because that's what the artists have drawn them to be. But when you look at the sprites on the screen, they don't look as much like the character portraits, or maybe it's just me. The way I remember the characters, they're sort of in my head. So then when I look at the portraits, they don't really look like, they're sort of like they're too kind of detailed for me anyway, because I'm used to looking at sort of like the very tiny heads on the screen. So that is a little bit about just my thoughts on Broken Sword 1. If you've played Broken Sword 1 Remaster, let me know what you think of the game in the comment section below. If you like the extra sections with Nico and the extra sections with George, and the quality and the sort of the graphical improvements, or do you prefer the original CD PlayStation 1 CD version, or the PC version as well? So let me know, and thanks for listening, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.